In 1976, two young men were tinkering in a garage in Los Altos, California, building a computer that no one had asked for. Today, that company is worth over $3 trillion and has reshaped the way we live, work, and communicate. This is the story of Apple, how it rose from a humble garage project to becoming one of the most valuable and influential companies in history. To understand Apple's success, we need to go back to the beginning, to the early 1970s. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak met in 1971 through a mutual friend, Bill Fernandez. Jobs was 16, Wozniak was 21. Wozniak was a brilliant self-taught engineer, fascinated by electronics. Jobs was more of a visionary. He saw how technology could change the world. Their first collaboration wasn't a computer, it was the Blue Box, a device that allowed people to make free long-distance calls by hacking the phone network. Wozniak built it, Jobs marketed it. They sold around 200 units before getting into trouble with the phone company. Jobs later reflected, without the Blue Box, there would have been no Apple. In the mid-1970s, Wozniak designed a simple computer for fun, just a single circuit board with a processor and memory. Jobs saw the potential and convinced Wozniak they could sell it. They needed capital to fund production. Jobs sold his Volkswagen van, and Wozniak sold his HP Scientific calculator, raising $1,300. They started working out of Jobs' parents' garage. In 1976, they launched the Apple I, a bare-bones computer that required customers to provide their own keyboard and monitor. Jobs secured a $50,000 order from the Byte Shop, a local computer store. The Apple I was primitive, but the real breakthrough came with the Apple II in 1977. The Apple II was fully assembled, featured color graphics, had an easy-to-use keyboard. Sales took off. Apple's revenue jumped from $774,000 in 1977 to over $7.9 million in 1978. In 1980, Apple went public, the largest IPO since Ford Motor Company. Steve Jobs' net worth soared to $217 million overnight. Apple was no longer just a garage startup. It was now a force in the tech industry.
But success came with complications. Jobs had a reputation for being difficult to work with. He demanded perfection and pushed his team to the breaking point. In 1983, Jobs convinced John Sculley, then CEO of Pepsi, to join Apple. He famously asked, "Do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life, or do you want to change the world?" Sculley's arrival marked a turning point, but not in the way Jobs had hoped. Jobs poured his energy into the Macintosh project, a follow-up to the unsuccessful Apple Lisa. The Macintosh introduced the world to the graphical user interface GUI and mouse. Jobs unveiled the Macintosh in 1984 with the now iconic 1984 commercial directed by Ridley Scott. It positioned Apple as a revolutionary force against corporate conformity, a direct shot at IBM. The launch was a marketing success, but the Macintosh itself was underpowered and expensive. Sales were disappointing. Jobs clashed with Sculley over strategy. Tensions boiled over in 1985. The board sided with Sculley, and Jobs was forced out of his own company. Jobs later reflected, "Getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me." Without Jobs, Apple floundered. Competitors like Microsoft began to dominate with cheaper, more flexible products. By 1996, Apple was losing money fast. Its product lineup was a mess, over a dozen computer models, most of them failing in the market. The company was just months from bankruptcy.
In 1997, Apple was desperate, and they turned back to the man they had pushed away. Jobs returned as interim CEO after Apple acquired Next, the company Jobs had founded after leaving Apple. He immediately began cutting costs and simplifying Apple's product line. Jobs cut the number of products from 15 to just 4. To desktops, consumer and professional. To laptops, consumer and professional. Jobs secured a $150 million investment from Microsoft, shocking the tech world. Bill Gates even appeared via satellite at Macworld to announce the partnership. In 1998, Jobs introduced the iMac, a colorful, translucent, all-in-one computer with USB ports and internet-ready software. It sold over 800,000 units in the first year. The iMac put Apple back in the spotlight, but the real game changer was still to come. In 2001, Apple introduced the iPod, a portable music player that could hold 1,000 songs in your pocket. Paired with iTunes, it made buying and organizing music simple. In 2007, Apple introduced the iPhone, combining a phone, iPod, and internet browser into one sleek device. The iPhone redefined the smartphone industry. The App Store followed in 2008, giving developers a platform to create new experiences for iPhone users. The iPad came next in 2010, creating the tablet market. Apple was no longer just a tech company. It was defining modern culture. In 2011, Steve Jobs stepped down as CEO due to health issues. He died on October 5, 2011, at the age of 56. Under Tim Cook, Apple continued to grow. New products like the Apple Watch and AirPods became cultural staples. In 2018, Apple became the first publicly traded company to reach a $1 trillion valuation. It doubled that figure by 2020 and reached $3 trillion in 2022. Apple's success wasn't just about technology, it was about design, user experience, and vision. Jobs' obsession with simplicity and user experience shaped every product Apple created. Steve Jobs' philosophy was summed up in his famous Stanford commencement speech, "Stay hungry, stay foolish." From a garage in Los Altos to a global empire, Apple's story proves that setbacks aren't failures, they're opportunities to reinvent. What could you create if you dared to think differently?